A tēnā koutou te iwi e whakarongo mai nā kia Tūranga FM, ko Tina Wickliffe tēnei e mihi atu ana kia koutou katoa, ko tahuri mai I tēnei haora. Nōku te whiwhi, te tainga tinana mai ai nei rangatira ki te whakamārama mai te tono ko huki I whakatakoto hia e rātou, ki mua I te aroaro o te rōpu whakamana I te tiriti, ko tōna ito e whakahea nei ngā whakarere kētanga e kōkiri hia nei te minita whakawhanake Māori e te ururoa Flavel. Ka tika I tōku taha I tēnei wā, ko te heamana o te kaunihira Māori ki te taira whiti Owen Lloyd. Te kai pīkau matua I te premi nei he uri no ngā iwi maha o te taira whiti Maurice Lant. Ko tēnei o ngā rangatira o te whānau a kai a Dave Hawea. Rawa ko Keith Kārepa no te whānau a kai he mema no hoki o te kaunihira Māori ki te taira whiti nei kei au. So a quick summary for those of you who haven't heard. At the end of last week, the Waitangi Tribunal agreed to hear an urgent claim, which argues, amongst other things, that a suite of proposed changes to the way Māori land is utilised degrades the Rangatiratanga of landowners. Now, these changes are part of a land reform regime being championed by none other than the Māori Development Minister, Te Ururoa Flavel, in order to overhaul, in particular, Te Ture Whenua Māori. Maurice Lant, I'll come to you first. Give us the guts of this claim.
Kia ora, Tina, nā mihi atu ki a koutou, ko Maurice Lant tōku ingoa. Basically, it started back in 2012 to 2013 when a bunch of consultation rounds went out to discuss the possible initiatives that will come out of a bill to either tweak or review the current Te Ture Whenua Act 1993. Now, at the time those first consultation rounds went out, Māori were just given an overview on the possibilities. There was no actual bill released back then. So we were moving through a transition phase from that point. And for some of us, if not a lot of us, or all of us, there was no actual clear guidelines on the direction of where this was coming from and where it was going to go. Initially, one would have thought that such a prevalent act like the Ture Whenua Act would come back to Māori to drive those initiatives and make those decisions. However, in 2015 of this year, earlier in April, June, July, a bill was released by Te Ururoa Flavel. And what took place was that straight after that, a week after that, consultation rounds had gone into full swing, and there was an expectation that Māori would in particular go through a full document and come out with some answers within a month. And I think that basis alone creates a huge concern and should for us as Māori, because firstly there are no clear guidelines on where Māori engagement took place and where these driving forces came from. There was a large amount of concern, so even prior to the bill being released, I had done a lot of research on the issues that have been raised over the consultation process, the processes that in some instances didn't come back to drive the purposes of Māoridom. And I say that because of the way in which it was released.
How does the bill, or the proposals in the bill, degrade the Rangatiratanga of Māori landowners?
Well, firstly, Tina, there's a whole lot of different issues when going through the bill, and the first issue to come from it is that the decision-making process must start with Māoridom, and it is Māori land that is being put in the front line, and our prejudices are that these property rights that are currently held in our Māori titled names are being compromised because nobody else is actually subject to the same form of legislation as Māori. So that's one of the first prejudices. Secondly, we're talking about the treaty, which is very important, and the preamble. What has been proposed in the exposure draft is to remove both of those principles, and for us as Māoridom, in Māoridom, those are significant to tino Rangatiratanga. If we don't have those there as protective mechanisms, what accountability and assurance will allow us to challenge any decisions that are being made by the Crown or otherwise as to our property rights?
Kia ora, Owen Lloyd, we'll come to you now, Chairman of the Taira Whiti District Māori Council. Why has this branch of the Māori Council got behind this claim?
Well, to Kia ora tātou katoa. I taku whakaaro, the Māori District Council, the fact is it's going to have a big impact on two areas where large Māori population will be affected, which is here and up north. And some of the largest land holdings is going to affect those owners. And so that's part of the Māori Community Development Act that we are charged to look at the interests of Māori in terms of our development, whether it be socially, educationally, health, all these things, because who else is going to speak for them? In the past, the Māori Council was always there to speak for them. Then the iwi issue clouded the waters, and then the treaty sign-offs, but yet there's a huge still amount of Māori who haven't got any representation or given the opportunity to have a voice. And so we see that as part of our role under that Act to be a voice for them as well, to express some issues and concerns that we may have.
Earlier this year, the co-chair of the New Zealand Māori Council, Judge Eddie Jury, said that the reforms were heading in the right direction. Were you disappointed in that?
If you have a look at it, there is, I suppose, te wairu o tērā whakaaro, kei te pai. Engari, you got to look at beneath that. What is the motivation for this? You know, if you look at the Māori Land Court Judge report, expresses a lot of caution that why is it necessary to throw out the whole bill when there are issues in areas which could be tweaked, which would put it back online and put it into the right pathway. But it seems like that, let's chuck it all out and start again and write something that is, as they have said, will set us right in 30 years. I've looked 30 years ahead, and I've seen my grandchildren be totally alienated from their lands. And big corporates are there, but they're not representing them. They're not representing the little owners. It's the only people who are going to benefit from it. It's the corporations. Why would the corporations want to be involved in changing the Ture Whenua Act when they have their own act? Why are they? Because they see the $3 billion or whatever dollars it is per annum they want to control it. They want to be part of that. They want to have the benefits from it. It ain't going to come to the owners. The little owners in that are not able to go to their meetings now because their shares don't get enough money to even pay the petrol.
You liken it to corporate colonisation. Do you want to explain that a little bit more? Oh
yes, so I think it is. It smacks of just how Tūranga lost all its lands at the last time with the colonisation of Tūranga was used by using other Māori. I see that the corporates of this world today are using Māori corporations to do the same thing for them, and I see that's the first step, because as soon as they talk about now land they can sell, the land they can't sell. I taku whakaaro, ko tahi te whenua. Ko tuku atu i ngā tō mātou tipuna mātua hei taonga mo te iwi Māori. Kāre ki te hoko atu ki tērā, ki tērā. But what are we saying now? Oh, well, you can sell this one, but you can't sell this one. Whenua is whenua. And kei reira te oranga mo te iwi Māori, and it's not to be sold. But this legislation appears to be greasing the palms of all those who are desperately holding on to the last remnants of our Māori land, so that it can be wrenched very easily from their grasp in the future. And I see this Act as a direction towards that.
Kia ora, Owen. Dave, Hawea, I was at the consultation hui that was held here in Gisborne, and there you moved a motion opposing the reforms as proposed by the bill currently before Parliament. Do you want to do you want to expand on why you're opposed to reform of Te Ture Whenua?
Kia ora, Tina. Tēnā koutou katoa e whakarombo mai tēnei kōrero. Yes, one of my issues that I had was the basis of these of the government bringing in changing the Act. They are using as saying that they need more undeveloped land to utilise the Māori land to its full extent. Now, I come in here on personal experience. In our area, in the Whanawaka area, there's no land really that is undeveloped. The huge problem that we have is because we haven't got the resources, we've never had the resources, never had the support by government to let us utilise our own land. The land is, over the years, all my lifetime, anyone I've seen with my own eyes, has been leased by Pākehā. And those Pākehās today, most of them are millionaires. That's how much, So our land is very, very good. We've never had the ability to utilise it. For me, I'd say it's false when they say they want Māori to develop the land. Now, on our land at home, they grow crops such as tomatoes, onions, sweet corn, you name it. And these are huge crops, high value crops, so the land is very, very rich. So the country is benefiting from it, the land is being utilised, however, benefits from it are going to the Pākehā. Now in the case of our own family land in our rohe, for years the Pākehā leased our land. And when it came back to us in 1981, then it was revealed to us for the last 42 years, these Pākehās have been paying £1 an acre for the land and the lease. However, when we got our land back, the lease shot right up to $500 an acre, when I took over, trying to work it for the family. So this has always been my problem. I've seen it with my own eyes. I've experienced it when I was a kid virtually. I started working when I used to drive the tractors for these Pākehās on this land, and I always thought it was their land. I didn't even realise it was our land we were working on. So, that's my problem, and I think that the Māori Trust, they really need to look at it and don't come up with a broad statement like we want Māori undeveloped land to be utilised. There's a lot of land, Māori land, that is utilised today, anywhere on the flats in Gisborne here. However, the share that comes back to the Māoris is minimal for the money that is actually being borne out by the use of that land. Whenua ku whakaaro mō tēnā. Ai. Tino hoha wau I whakarongo mai a rātou mō tēnei whenua, te pānaki, te pānawākai, te pānau hoki. Ai.
And if I recall correctly at that hui at Te Papa, I think you likened these reforms as the last land grab. Now, the Māori Party put out a press release very recently saying that, and I quote, "The kōrero going around that the Māori land reform is some kind of land grab is malicious scaremongering." Do you want to respond to that?
Well, I think that, I do want to respond to it because the way they look at utilising the land is not by supporting the Māori that own it. So what what do they call themselves now? The Tumu Pairo. What they had been doing, telling us that we're utilising your land by getting it all together, combining it and leasing it to one lessee. So, I don't see that benefiting it. The only person that has benefited from that is the guy that leased it all. He had all the leases. And they say, well, they're centralising and bringing all the land together and that we would benefit from it. We don't benefit from it. The only way we're going to get the full benefit of our land is we have to be supported to farm it ourselves. But there's no support. There's never been support from the Crown. I've experienced it myself. I've been on the land all my life, and I know, what I'm talking about here.
Yes, and Keith Kārepa from Te Whānau Kai, the Minister Flavel, he's extended the time for consideration of the proposed reforms in the bill itself. Does that give you some comfort? He'll relook at it in the new year.
No, sorry, none at all. Basically, we've always believed it's forward from the beginning. Yeah, they didn't have a right, basically, to draw it up. when the model gets drawn up, it should be drawn up by Māoridom, and it should be put back to them, this is what we want. And so, as far as I'm concerned, they can fiddle with as much as they like. It's not going to be something that's coming from us. And that's the basic problem.
I mean, a lot of our people, there'll be those that are listening to us now, they won't understand the technicalities of the reforms being proposed, and it would be difficult for us to delve into them in the short time that we have. So in a nutshell, are you able to tell us, what in particular are you concerned about with the reforms being proposed?
Well, a lot of them have already been spoken about here, and so it is fairly vast. I recognise that, but principally it's about what we want as Māori and where we want to go, and what this present bill is what a European government, a Pākehā government wants and where they want to go. The difference is as simple as that to me. And we want to go in a completely different direction as to where they want to go. And as Dave has said here, we need support to be able to utilise our land ourselves. If we choose that we want the land to be used for a particular activity, we want the right to be able to do that, just like everybody else has got. We don't want to be dictated to by any other person as to what they think we should be using the land for. So, we've got a lot of land that we have locked up, papakainga, that's not able to be utilised, etc. Sitting there stuck because of their policies. But
that's what the government argues, isn't it? That these reforms will unleash the potential, economic potential of Māori land.
It is what they argue, but I think the comment has been made by several people, if it's not broken, don't fix it. Well, I don't agree with that. It is broken. You just don't get the person who's broke it to try and fix it, that's all.
Kia ora. Now, Maurice, where to from here? When is the tribunal going to hear this claim?
Okay, right now as of September, just last week actually, we were given notification that the tribunal had moved it out of its urgency stage, and now we are going to a full hearing in November. So, on that note, we're also pushing for it to come to Tūranga, for the main reasons, as per everything else, Tina, the resourcing. And because this issue is quite critical to Māori, and we're always challenged and hampered by restraints of resources on getting our people to and from to these kaupapa, we are actually pushing for it to come to Tūranga. And we're hopeful that it actually gets pushed this way. It will allow our people to come and either support the claim or otherwise, but do so in an environment that they feel happy about expressing their views. In regards to that, just one thing I want to elaborate on is that this kaupapa is and has been politically driven. It has been driven by non-Māori's perceptions on what we should and should not be doing with our whenua. This is a land grab, but it's not a land grab for Māori taking their own land elsewhere. It's a land grab from the Crown that has decided to introduce a bill without our engagement and our consent as Māori to do so. It's our whakapapa, it's our whenua, leave it alone.
Oh, kia ora. Well, we're about to wrap up because I know that you've got other interviews to do after this, but I'll just go around the room because we all know that Ture Whenua Māori was taking advice from his consultation panel, a panel of experts that include Tānuku, Mahuika, Kingi Smiler, etc., etc. We'll start with you, Papa Dave. If you could have a couple of minutes with Ture Whenua Māori, what would you like to say to him about these reforms?
Well, the first thing I would say to him is get someone that's actually lived on the land and experience what they're trying to implement. We well know both Kingi and Alan Harunga who are involved because they're both of Whanawaka. They never say that though. And our people at home are absolutely livid with them because of what they're doing. They're trying to. We see them as corporate warriors. They're trying to change everything around and using that mantle of corporate, operations. So, yeah, that's what I'd say to him, and I would agree with what the others have said. If they want the government want Māori to utilise their land to its fullest extent, they've got to put the money where their mouth is and back it up. back us because we can't do it ourselves. Yeah.
Tēnā koe te rangatira no te whānau a Kai, that was Dave Hawea. Keith, what would you have to say to the Minister if you got, say, 1 minute of his time?
Well, I would say take it back to the people to whom it concerns. Never mind about your political allies. Take it back to the people who will be affected by the act that you're attempting to change.
Kia ora. And Owen Lloyd, as the chairman of the Tairāwhiti District Māori Council, what say you?
Well, taku kōrero ki aia, waiho te tuhinga o te Ture Whenua, tuku atu te tahi pūtea ki ngā tangata e noho ai I runga te whenua. Awhi a rātou ki te whakatū tōranga mō tō rātou iwi I runga I o rātou whenua. Kau e tuku atu ki te ngā corporates mō wai. Kāre te hau kāinga e whiwhi kai I roto tērā āhuatanga. More development money to enable those people to use their own resources, their own thinking to develop their land and then to provide it rather than get it lost to a corporate, because in time, we're seeing these great ideas come up called the consolidation, and now we are seeing some of the responses of that consolidation in the past, that people have been alienated from their own lands even though they whakapapa into there. They have no rights onto it. Whakapapa is not enough. It seems as though shareholding is more important than your whakapapa rights to that land, your mana whenua to that land. Whenua is something for Māori to give Māori their mana, not something to be traded off for $1. Kia ora.
Oh, kia ora, Owen. Pua no, kei a koe te kōrero whakamutunga, Maris.
Kia ora.
Land, who is the main claimant.
Just a few basics, Tina. First of all, I would like to see that the Minister takes this quite seriously, stops the bill in its tracks right now, gets better policy advice, because I tend to think that some of the advice that's been given out needs to be actually reaffirmed. Secondly, consultation starts with Māori and ends with Māori. It doesn't start by Crown and end by Crown in terms of Māori whenua. Provide better laws for Māori that make it easier for our people so that we can actually do what we're doing now with the intent of going to a one-stop shop, as opposed to dividing a lot of the central internal dynamics or policies that are going to happen to LINZ, TPK and Māori Land Court. Our people do not want to see that our lands, in order to get information, have to go to 3 different departments to do so, and that's even before we even get the regulations out, to decide how much the costs are going to be impacting on Māoridom. And the other thing too is never forget that the whenua is our whakapapa, and once it's gone, it's gone.
Kia ora.
Kia ora mō te rā.
Kia ora, kia ora. O, tēnā koutou, katoa I taia tinana mai ki Tūranga FM I tēnei ahiahi. Hoi anō, kia pai te haere. E aku rangatira, te marama noima ka tū tēnei kreme. E wero ana I te ture I ngā whakarerekiatanga e kōkirihi ana mo te Ture Whenua Māori. Anā ko te tumanako ka tū ngā hui nei, ngā whakawātanga ki turanganui-a-kiwa. Hoi anō, ko ea te wāhanga kia mātou, kia koutou whakarongo mai nā, noho ora mai rā.
Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Kia ora.